welcome to tonight's episode of Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel, and as always, I have a very special guest for you, Leah Sardinha, Culinary. She'll be with us for the next 30 minutes, so stay with us. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. Beyond Focus TV allows you to discuss contemporary topics affecting the Caribbean people on both a national and local level. The show features informed guests who offer insight, debate, and evaluate various issues. Beyond Focus TV builds on the station's mission to provide useful information to the Caribbean people in New York and abroad. Beyond Focus TV, where our viewing audience can get educated, informed, and empowered. Welcome back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel. Like I said, I have a very special guest for you, Leah Sardinha. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you here. We love having people in the community who are doing amazing things, especially women who are doing great things. So it's a pleasure to have you. But before we even go too deep into anything, I always start off with what I call my hot seat question, which is, who is? So who is Leah Sardinha?
Well, Leah Sardinha is a mother and a culinarian. I'm also in the community as far as Brownsville, downtown Brooklyn. I do a lot of work within the local community and on a state level. I've been pretty much an essential worker throughout the pandemic. I've partnered up with an amazing group of individuals where we do food distribution within our community. We make sure that there's food going out to different shelters and churches and seniors. But aside from that, and prior to the pandemic, I've always had hospitality, culinary, and catering in my veins.
I like that. So you come from a family of cooks and caterers and chefs and all those great things.
A very, very long line. A very long line. I had family members that were cooking for the Queen on the Queen Mary, and so it just goes back.
Oh, wow.
It's further than I can even remember, but it's been a long line of culinary.
And what's your specialty? And I always ask not to pry into anyone's ethnicity, but it does bring different flavors. Like your lineage, I mean, a lot of time people cook outside of there, of course. But is there, what has your family traditionally cooked mostly?
So I come from, both of my parents are from Trinidad and Tobago, and that cuisine is a mix of Creole, East and West Indian. It's a Caribbean base, and I think that's where the majority of what I create comes from.
Yep. My family is Trini as well, so I know just out of all the islands, I mean Guyana as well, you get that mix, but you have 3 to 4 just between the Asian, the East Indian, you'll have the Creole, you'll have, like, it's such a blend, and depending on who you ask what the national dish is, they will tell you something different.
Absolutely. It's a melting pot.
Because it's a melting pot. So that's amazing. So you have that, and I've never heard the term culinarian used like that. So I love that you use that, because I was like, you know, it just, one, gives it that little bit more of that oomph, because you're not just a chef, or you're not just cooking. There's a science behind a lot of this that goes into it. So I think it's a craft.
Absolutely.
Like everything else.
Absolutely.
So when did you first discover, I mean, your family, you're kind of come from a long lineage of this, but for you personally, when did you really discover and really kind of tap into that passion?
For me, you know, growing up, we never ate out. We didn't do takeout. We didn't do anything like that. My father, who had his own catering company for 40 years and is also a chef, he just made sure that dinner was a priority, breakfast was a priority. Like, we always sat around the table. My family, my immediate family consists of 7 of us, and dinner time was important, and if you weren't there, then that was a big deal. Early on, maybe right around just after primary school, he would make me come into the kitchen and just learn. It was like a given. It was like, these are the measurements, whether it's a cup or a handful or a pinch or whatever, but definitely School of Hard Knocks. And I would say right around 10, 11, it was almost, I wouldn't say I was forced, but it was just no choice. It was just like, why not learn?
Yeah, you pitch in and you start learning, and it's annoying to us then, but then looking back, you're like, oh, wow, yep.
Absolutely.
It's an amazing gift.
Absolutely.
So how did you finally decide to translate that into, because some people do it for the love, but love doesn't always pay the bills, so we have to make this a business.
Right, absolutely. One thing you must know when you get into culinary, you're not getting into it for the money. You definitely have to have a passion for it. And right up through high school and into college, I still was unsure. But there was a recruiter from Johnson & Wales University, which is it's huge in the hospitality and culinary industry. And I said, why not? Let me give it a shot. This is how I grew up. This is what I grew up on. Mm-hmm. And I actually entered the hospitality program. But in that program, they incorporated baking and pastry as well as culinary. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of got the other side of things as opposed to the hard knocks. Now I was actually learning it by the book.
Which is good to have still. You need, I think it's that formal training. Mm-hmm. Could still, I know a couple of restaurants here in Brooklyn, one of their executive chefs, you know, he's Jamaican, but he's trained in like Italy and France, and he's like, a lot of my food has that European infusion into it, which is great.
It goes right along with the basics, just like with dance you have ballet. With culinary you have that French base, that foundation. I think a lot of what comes from culinary comes from French cooking. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you don't even, you know, you kind of forget that. Mm-hmm. But French cuisine, I mean, I've been to France. I'm not big on French food. But there's like on the pastry side, it's because I don't eat meat.
Right.
And I think it's very stewy. There's a lot of pâtés. There's very rich, saucy things that just is not so much of my palate.
Right.
But on their desserts, though, yeah, very much my palate.
100%. 100%.
Very much my palate there. What would you say is some of the favorite things that you really enjoy cooking and then eating? Because some people, I find a lot of chefs will cook, but they don't want to eat their own food.
Right, right. The hardest part about cooking is figuring out what to cook. And I think where that dilemma comes in is, oh, well, I had that last week. Oh, we're going to have that in 2 weeks. And so you kind of have to just figure out where it is that you feel, even if it's something that you've already made, eventually you'll just get a taste for it. It's almost like instinct as you're cooking. Then you're like, yeah, you know what? Let me switch this up a little bit. And then before you know it, you've created something new. So it's like, you're just going with your gut. It's more or less just your, you know, that passion for what it is you're making.
Do you have like the Leah version of typical Sunday food, you know, stewed chicken, macaroni pie, callaloo? Do you have your own twist? Because I know it's so routine. Like, we just know that's Sunday food.
Absolutely.
But
it boils down to technique.
It
boils down to technique. And so, you know, growing up in a West Indian household, you had that one Dutch pot or that iron pot, and it's just a matter of how you cover it, how you let it steam, if you're going to put foil around it, how you
I've seen all those things done.
Right. And then it speaks to the integrity, you know, how soft the rice is going to be, or how soupy it'll be, what's going to sink in, as opposed to, you know, what's going to still be there for that little, what we call slurry, that little bit of gravy on the plate. So I think it's just over time you kind of just develop your own little technique, and that becomes your thing, and I think that's where I am with it. My father taught me his technique, and I just kind of developed my own thing from that. Of
course, and you would have to. I think it's only right. You take all those combination of things, and then you just really kind of make it your own. So we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
We'll be right back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. Stay with us. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel. So, Leah, I see that amazing shirt of yours with a nice big logo, Creatively. I know it's a little play on words of how it's spelled and things like that. So, fill us in. What is Creatively?
So, Creatively is my brainchild. Obviously, I followed in the steps of my father with catering. A group of us parents got together in the PTA room at my daughter's primary school, and we all figured out what our passions were. And everybody was just, you have to cater, you have to cook, you have to do this. And as we were sitting there, and it was like a bit of a powwow, everyone kind of touched on the fact that I'm always taking something and then creating something from it. So even if it's an American dish or something with an Asian twist, I always put my own little Trini, you know,
You have to.
twang on it. And so they started calling me creative, and I was like, well, what better way to put it than creatively? And then we started playing with all the words that end in an ly and putting the ee at the end, and we kind of just settled on creatively.
That is nice. So you were saying that there's the business portion, and then there's also the nonprofit.
Yes. So creatively is the catering portion of it, and the year before, or the year going into the pandemic, I launched a nonprofit organization for culinary arts therapy, and that's Living Creatively. And what that is, it's not necessarily clinical by nature, but it's more or less supportive, and it's exploring emotion while cooking. And so, yes.
That is so interesting because cooking is therapeutic.
Absolutely.
I mean, sometimes, and I've done it. I mean, I'm no chef, but I can hold my own in the kitchen. And I could definitely, I mean, the pandemic brought it out of me more, especially with things being shut down. You had no choice. By the time you try to order Uber Eats and the delivery fee, service fee, tax, tip, that's a whole other meal.
Absolutely. And it's insane. And then when you really think about it, if you go to your cupboard and you start pulling out a few items, before you know it, you're creating.
Yeah, you could definitely do a few things. So, and I definitely, I'm very interested on this part because I think for a lot of people, and I've heard it so much, it's like, it's a de-stressor, it's a way, like, so do you really get to kind of talk through your feelings as you're cooking? Is that what it's identifying what you feel as you cook?
So I mean, the most basic explanation of it all is I've been beta testing with a certain age demographic. So I have children between the ages of 8 and 13. And it's something as simple as, let's say, baking bread and allowing them to play with dough and exploring their emotions and how they feel. So we tap into the five senses and how what the texture means to them, what the aroma is like for them, the sounds of it cooking, what it looks like when the dough begins to rise, taste, of course, texture.
I need to borrow those hands to make some roti. You need some roti for me. I need all you little 8 to 13-year-olds need my roti because I don't want to do it. And then, flip it.
And in a sense, what that touches on is what we try to do is find what that means to them. So I know for me, there's certain aspects of cooking that will remind me of when my father was in the kitchen, which brings me back to a place of safety and security. I just remember family dinners being cooked. I know if I hear that pot spoon banging on the side of the pot, it's almost time. He's shaking the rice grains off, which means all the liquid is soaked into the rice and it's almost dinner time. So it's these little things that spark the nostalgia, even in children, to bring them to a place where I love when my mom makes this, or I love when I smell cookies baking, or I know that the bread's almost ready because it has a certain aroma. Or if I go to the oven and I look in and the light is on, I can see it rise.
Yes. And I think that ties in with, like, the holidays. A big part of the holidays and why food is so tied to the holidays is the magic of what certain things, like Trinity Christmas morning, there's ham, there's bread. There's certain things which, if you're not West Indian, you may not. Like, every culture has their own Christmas traditions, but I remember those things. Even though I don't eat it anymore, it's like, I would remember you have to have ham. You got to have the homemade, relatively homemade bread,
Right.
And you remember those things, and you definitely do.
And I think that's what the basis of it is. As you spoke on Christmas, there's certain scents that you will remember, like if you may smell a cinnamon or a pine cone or something like that. If that's coming out of the kitchen, there's a possibility that there's a cider that's boiling, or someone's working on a porridge that's going to go along with whatever that breakfast is that you're having. And then there's the fresh baked bread that's coming from that, or the honey baked ham. Or if your parents were like mine, they started the dinner cooking right around breakfast time. So you can smell whatever it was that
throughout
was
the day,
on the pots.
For me, it's like actually right around now, like October, like November-ish, fruits are soaking. And I used to love, for black cake, And I would love, they'll go in there, and my mom used to do it the old school, like grinding the fruit. Like now we use a hand mincer, but it's like before they had like this little mill, and you would mince your fruit and pour the bottles of rum in there and watch her seal it, and we would all be like in awe watching that because you just want a little taste of like that rum infused fruit. And you put it away and you just wait, and then it's like a couple days before Christmas, and now it's baking time.
And it's tradition, and it's crafty, and it's a time for the family to get together. Both my parents taught us what they learned when they were growing up. We learned how to make rum cake. We learned how to make roti. We learned how to use the huge skillet and the grinder for the peas. And I think a lot of that is vital, and it's important, especially with kids, to have some type of place to go back to. Especially with everything that's going on now, and it feels like a little uncertain, just to be able to spark that little, like
Absolutely.
I said,
So nonprofit, 501c3.
Yes.
So if people want to donate, definitely at the end of the program, I give all the contact information because we would love to have people, support, get involved in this.
Thank you.
And of course, the catering. Of course, it's that time, So do you do like one-on-one consults with everyone to find out what would you like if you're doing an event, the type of event, how do you envision it, and the type of cuisine?
Well, I think what's important is that catering has just become generalized, and everyone just thinks, okay, if I need a large pan, let me cater. I want to get back to the root of catering, which is assessing a need or a want. And when I sit with a client, I ask them, what is it that you're looking for? And then I would give them my version of it. We'd either collaborate, or they'll say, you know what, that's a great idea. That's exactly what I want to do. It tends to go back to me incorporating my culture and my traditions into small bites and past hors d'oeuvres, and having little tea parties and intimate dinner parties. And that's huge with the clients that I deal with. If they want something in a large pan or something like that, there are, restaurants that they can call and order catering from the restaurant. But I tend to like
Customize.
Yes, and very intimate, and very just kind of what it is that you want, or what it is that you're looking for that
Right.
experience.
And that's what my version, when I think of catering, that's what I want, versus I just need a whole tray of jerk chicken, or I just need this. That's not necessarily my goal. Like if I'm going to hire a chef to cater something, because I want something customized, Diana said, let's work together. Let's build this.
Yes.
And make that happen. So amazing. And I'm glad that you're aligned on that's what,
Thank you.
creatively does. So we'll have one more segment left. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. Stay with us. Back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. So Leah, why don't you tell us what are your top, because of course when you're working with clients, you're here to serve your clients, you'll create pretty much whatever. But do you have like your favorite items that are like Leah's favorites that you just love going in the kitchen and creating?
I definitely have 2 or 3 dishes that are near and dear to me. One of them is a very local, traditional one-pot idea called pilau, which, for those of you who don't know, is literally
Chicken and rice.
You may add peas. You may add a different vegetable.
Peas, carrots. I've seen it so many different ways.
And it goes by so many names: rice cook-up, or whatever.
People don't always use chicken. They use other
I've made
meats.
beef. I've made pork. I've made a seafood.
Yeah.
It's just that one thing that it's almost like a stone soup. And you can put as much as you want in there, and every time you make it, you create something different.
It's funny you said soup, because some people like a more wet pilau, but it's a little more mush. I prefer it like a little more firm.
Yes.
But I've had it the mush, nothing wrong with it,
Nothing's wrong with it. I like the grainy version.
Coconut milk goes inside. Some people, you could just
It's
go.
pretty much making a soup, adding rice, and allowing the rice to absorb all of that flavor.
And every island has a variation of this. On the Spanish side, the Haitian side, the French islands, Spanish islands, and of course the English islands, there's a variation of this, I think.
100%.
So powwow.
Powwow, but I would have over the past, I would say, 8 years. I have 2 young daughters, and one thing I noticed is that they always wanted to have a tea party, but never knew what to serve. And so one of the things that I started, which pretty much took off, was having tea parties, but incorporating a different version of what those small bites would look like. So one of the items that's served at the coronation of the queen is called Coronation Chicken. And with that, it's a chicken salad. You can serve it on crostini or some type of biscuit.
Okay.
I add curry to it, and it's a curry chicken salad.
Yeah, you know what? I love it.
So that's like, I love doing the tea parties, and I love offering something totally different.
And kids
than
are okay with the curry, like,
completely on board.
because people worry about that. Is the curry too spicy for them? Like, no.
No.
If you
I love
introduce
it.
children to it, their palate will adjust.
Yep, 100%. And what I do is I just create all of those small bites, the little tea sandwiches, and just put a little Trini twist on it. So I don't know if you've ever had like the cheese
Cheese paste sandwiches?
That's it. You make a green one, you make a pink one, and then they're like, oh my God, these are so
I
cute.
just want to eat a bowl of the cheese. Like, I don't even need the bread. I just need the cheese paste and cricks. If you don't know, learn.
Cricks.
Get yourself a bag of cricks, the cheese
Yes.
paste. Putting you guys on. You're going to thank me later.
It's a late night snack, an early morning snack, middle of the day. But yes, so it's just really crafting tea parties and introducing something different. You still have your traditional teas. I did do a tea party for my daughter when she turned 8, and we had the infinity party. It was 96 degrees outside, so they put iced tea in their little teacups. But we still had our cheese sandwiches. We had ceviche shooters, which is really saltfish, right?
Yep.
We had fried
That's just
codfish
bulldog,
cakes.
right? That's literally what it is.
That's it. And they loved it. And I introduced her friends who came from a variation of cultures, American, West Indian, Asian, and they loved every small bite, every part of it. And I think it's something that I'm working on bringing back, just offering young girls and boys an alternative to the game truck or, the rock climbing or...
There's something so nice about doing a little tea party. There is another lady I know who does an adult tea party, and it's like, come and get your hat, and we could just play dress up a little bit on a nice Sunday afternoon. And she would get like the big, like if you actually go to London and you go for tea time, which I have dropped that 100 pounds to have tea time, but it's for the experience.
Yes.
And you get your variation of teas, like you said. You have your carafe with all your different snacks and little bites.
Different tiers. And
then you could pick if you want a 3-tier, and it's depending on how long you're going to sit and have tea.
it's a wonderful experience.
It really is. It's something nice, and I think it's in American culture, because I think we fought so hard to just remove anything British, that but it's definitely still a footprint that's here. And if you have certain cultures that were formerly British, we know of those things. So
Right.
it's not completely lost. I think there's something nice about it. Little girls and little boys could totally have a tea party, and
They can socialize and put their little gloves on and have their conversations. It's really beautiful to see.
You don't have to be loud. No, they can still ramp and have a good time, but it's nice. You know.
And then we teach a little etiquette, table manners, using the teacup, the saucer, a lot goes into it.
How to eat from which way and all those things that if your parents don't teach you at home, and a lot of times they don't know, so then you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. It's more than eating in front of the television.
Exactly. And, having, you said that, East New York area, a lot of those kids will not ever have access to a lot of these things.
Right.
Which is great that I feel that you have a platform for them. And a lot of those kids don't get, the same access.
And they love it once they sit and they experience it, and they love it. We've done etiquette lunches where we'd serve and teach them salad, fork, and the spoons, and how to do a table setting and water glass and they love it.
I love it.
It's
How
really fulfilling.
can everyone at home get in contact with you?
So I have, for the nonprofit organization, we can be found at livingcreatively.org, And for Creatively Catered, we can be found at livingcreatively.com. So it's pretty much the same domain, but the .org is for the nonprofit and the .com is for the catering company. And we have Creatively on Facebook and living_creatively, LEE, on Instagram.
Awesome. Any plans for 2022 that you can give us a little sneak peek of?
Well, we're going to fully launch into the program. It's going to be an 8-session program with the Culinary Arts Therapy, and it'll culminate with a final project and possibly video documentation of their experience throughout the program. And if they're interested, who knows what the possibilities are after that as far as web series, television, anything like that. So we really want to just launch into the 8-session program, get it into after schools, get it into certain facilities that provide music and art therapy, and it would be just an alternative. You don't necessarily have to cook on site. A lot of it can be done virtual, but to go global.
I love it. I love it. Leah, thank you so much. It's been amazing having you here. We're going to keep in touch because we want to definitely know how this is going and have you back for part 2.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank
Awesome.
you for having me.
And as always, if you have any questions or comments, you can send us an email at info@beyondfocusmedia.com. I'm your host, Lydia Patel. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be back again next week. Same time, same place. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. Stay with us.
Beyond Focus TV show wants and needs your feedback. Did we blunder? Please let us know so we can improve. Was the show helpful to you? Drop us a note so we can share the success with our staff members. Is there something you think we could do better? We welcome new ideas and new approaches to old ideas. Do you have a great suggestion? Let us know and we'll work on it. If you would like to share your comments anonymously, please send us an email at info@beyondfocusmedia.com. If you want to get in touch with the executive producer directly, send him an email at gene@beyondfocusmedia.com. We really look forward to hearing from you.